What's up, everybody? How's some clapping? So, it is Monday. I have finished up the bulk of my videos, so I actually have some free time. I've done quite a few things since our last live stream, and if you've been following along with any of the live streams, I know there's a ton of people in chat, we'll get to that in a moment. If you've been following along with any of the live streams, we were working on a very large rail core build, and things didn't go quite as I had planned. So I did get all the parts and everything to correct that build, but honestly, I kind of lost interest in building it because of the task was quite daunting. I had some other things I had to get done as well, so I kind of set that aside. But I have a lot of other things that I need to live stream as well. So there's going to be a lot of live streams coming very soon. And on the other side of live streams, if you've seen some of my live streams before, so it's extremely hot here, as it is pretty much everywhere in the United States at this point. You can usually hear my air conditioner running in the background. So I've tried to tweak the audio to get you as much volume and drown out a lot of that noise as well. So hopefully the audio is better today. I will go back and watch the stream later just to see how we did, because I'm kind of going on the fly. I did do some tests, so we'll see how that goes. But today, so when was it? Earth 2019. I talked to Bill Steele. If you don't know Bill, Bill has done a lot of things in the 3D printing space. He's a friend of the channel. He supports me monetarily on Patreon, so he's an extra special friend, but an all-around really nice dude. He came up with 3D Chameleon. 3D Chameleon is basically kind of like a Prusa MMU1, if you ever had any experience with that. But Bill went through and kind of tweaked it and made it work better. It's a Y splitter tube, multiple extruders. You can do as many of those extruders as you have switches for. It actually uses G-code to go over and tag a manual switch to switch in between extruders. And then the more you add, the different things that switch does by trading it off to other switches. And we'll go through all that as we build. Good, John Strand. Yes, thank you. Sounds good so far. Good. Now, with all that said, how it works and all this nonsense, Bill does stress that you should build. So he sells these in kits, right? You'll notice these are 2 boxes taped together. So all he does is sell one of these boxes, and that is a 2-color kit. And then the more colors you want, it's just the same kit over and over and over. So this is a 4-color kit, but it's just 2-color kits, right? So, but he stresses that you should only do 2 colors the first time, get that working, and then, go on to more colors, things like that. And before I get to the chat, one last thing I'm going to say at the top of this, because I would like this to be some sort of a guide by the time this is over. We'll see how the whole thing goes. I might consider cutting the live stream up into smaller pieces to get you the more pertinent information, and then putting that into a video. We'll see how all that goes. But the last thing is so Bill doesn't have a manual, a paper manual or a site-driven manual yet for the assembly of the Chameleon. Now, it's not really complicated, but I am going to be building. I'll let this come forward. Benjamin Ford, thank you very much for the $2. Currently, that I know of, it does not support 3mm filament. It's mainly driven towards the Ender 3, Ender 5, the Hotends that have a PTFE tube all the way down to the nozzle. Not saying that you couldn't make it work with 3mm, but we'd have to get with Bill and figure out a Y splitter for that. But it's going to work better with those style Hotends that have the PTFE tube all the way down the center. We can talk more about that as well. But the only installation information 3D Chameleon Bill has for this assembly are videos. And I watched a couple of those videos, skimming through them about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we're going to be building this one kind of on the fly. Again, I don't think it's super complicated, famous last words, but we're going to casually build maybe over the next couple of days or throughout the week. We'll see how far we get, but let's just hang out and see how things go. There you go. Now to the chat. Whole bunch of people in here. Paul Cumber, Dan is here, 3D Print Viking. Tessa, welcome. Sax, how's it going? Martin comes right in and says overpriced. Well, they're $100 for 2-color. So I don't. You can't even buy an extruder for $100. But Ron Floyd, how's it going? Thank you for coming to the stream. If you have time, I need help for a firmware for a Sunlu S8. I don't even know what that machine is. Fernando, hey. So let's just open one of these up, see what comes in one of the boxes. I did purchase this 3D Chameleon with my own funds because I think it is kind of a neat setup. He does give you kind of a quick, here's 12 steps to put this thing together. It says the 30-second installation steps as follows, and there's 12 line items. The last line item is print in color, so it can't be that hard. Brian has a 2-color set, but he couldn't get it to print reliably. Okay. Well, let's just see how we do then. That's why we do these things, right? To see what happens. Stig is here. What is up? I really don't want to tear the crap out of this box. Alright. Let's see if we can get you a view of what comes in these kits, kind of as we follow along here. So what do we get? Let's fan out a little bit for now. So we have our PTFE tube. We have a handful of motor cables. There are 4 there. Some of this is not used during the 2-color kit, but it might be used during the 4-color kit. He gives you a bunch of extra parts just to get you covered on all the kits. Zip ties. Here are all of our Y pieces. You'll notice we have half of the 4-color tree. That's because you put 2 of those together. I should have transitioned. That's because you put 2 of those together to make your 4-color tree. I don't know why that was zoomed way out, but there you go. Everything is green to go along with the chameleon motif. You have 2 green extruder sets. These are all MK8 style extruders. You have a couple of motors, a couple of L brackets to position those said motors, and then you have your switches. And that's what's kind of interesting about this whole setup. Now, you only need 1 of these for the 2-color kit, but they give you those anyway. And that, like I said, that's what makes this interesting, is that the G-code actually tags these manual switches to select what extruder to use. And then it kind of goes on from there and gets more complicated. And I believe that all the slicers out there now, 32 extruders is your limit, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that is the current limit. So there's all the stuff you get. Tom 3D Printing Llama is here. What is up, Tom? Yeah, it can't be that hard. That's right, Ron. Famous last words. Okay, so Well, let's since we have this. Let me pull all this. Let's just pull all this over here, and then as I build things, I'll kind of toss them on the table. How about that? So you can kind of have an idea of what is slightly going on. So basically, let's run over this as a setup here real quick. Basically, all we're doing is we're pulling off. In fact, let's start with that. This is my other kit. Let's not do that one yet. So let's start with that. We're going to prep the Ender 3 for this installation. So if you're not familiar with a Creality style machine, these were some of the first ones that you saw with an all one piece. Adam Green, thank you very much for this description. These are kind of the first ones that you saw with a continuous PTFE tube. I don't know that they were the first ones, but all of their machines is stock. They come with a continuous PTFE tube all the way down to the nozzle. That's how they get around the whole PTFE line break, Bowden feed setup. That's how they come stock. Now, with the Chameleon, you're going to end up with one of these PTFE tubes all the way down in the hot end like that, but then you're going to have that Y adapter setting on top of it, and then you will have just a line of extruder motors on top that feed that Y channel. So that's basically what we're going to do. Victor, thank you for the sub. We're going to create a handful of extruders that are going to feed that Y pipe, and then we're going to use G-code to control it. It won't know anything about having multiple extruders. It still thinks it has one hot end. We're going to, I'm not even going to remove the extruder. I'm just going to heat it up, which I'm going to heat that up while I'm talking here. I'm going to heat the hot end up. I'm going to pull the stock tube out. I'm not even going to remove it. I'm going to tuck it down right beside the hot end, leave the extruder on, and then that extruder motor wire will actually feed the switches that power the additional extruders. And it doesn't make a difference because you're just using one at a time. We're just going to change how we select which one we use. James from Print and Play is here. What is up, James? Rushfire 3D is here. Another James. There's lots of Jameses, lots of Chris's. Will it work with a Microswiss all-metal hot end? As long as you don't interfere with the stock in-stop location, like on an Ender 3, you can use them on multiple machines, but you have to get a little bit more creative. These switch bodies, they're just printed bodies. You could change them up. You could change them up however you want. That's a razor blade in there, by the way. So you can change these around to use them however you feel, but in the stock form, they are made to trigger the switch to switch your extruders the same time you hit your X in-stop switch. So as long as it doesn't affect that path, you shouldn't have to change anything. And I don't know about that Microswiss hot end, how much you change your carriage, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to impact your X in-stop. So you should be good there. And fun fact, this is the Ender 3 that I did all of the Ender 3 videos on. I just used it to make those videos, basically. It hasn't done anything else. I kind of actually hate to modify it, but I'm not really modifying it that much. I'm just changing out the PTFE tube, basically. The Ender 3 is really not going to know what's going on. Really, the only modification that you have to make, which I don't remember what style this one is, but the only real modification you have to make is you have to turn down the VREF on your extruder driver on these boards. This one still does run the stock board, so I'll have to do that with a trim pot. And yeah, so we'll just see how it goes. Okay, now let's get this PTFE tube out of here. Plus, you know, I really haven't, I know Ron, the Happy Extruder, I know he just went through installing one of these deals. I haven't had a chance to talk to him to ask him how it went. But I think he got his up and working. And other than that, I really haven't seen a whole lot of content on this deal. So I replaced the couplers on this Ender 3 a while back, and the Capricorn ones that I used on it, those things get really tight. So you get the bad, the couplers that don't grip the tube too good, but then you run into the couplers that grip it way too well. I only have it at 185, so not sure. I actually pulled this filament out the other day. Not sure how much will be down in there. X and Y end stop still stock. Cool. Yeah, then you should be good. There is no happy medium on the couplers. Not that I've found. Some of the printer manufacturers are going to the actual pneumatic couplers, like the brass fittings that you see. Even like copper hydraulic fittings. You have the tube inside that has the what do they call that? It's not a flared nut. I don't remember exactly what they call that, but it has the brass collar that goes over the tube, and then when you put the threaded collar down over that, it creates that squish onto the fitting. You're starting to see printers come out with those, and those are only, they don't have the teeth on them, so those are only affected by, how much you crank that fitting down. So those are probably the best ones I've seen so far out there. That one's got quite a bit of, man, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with this before. I'm sure if you 3D print and you have a Creality hot end, you probably have. But charred PLA on the end of your PTFE tube, there's nothing in this whole world that is stickier than that stuff. Burned sugar or whatever. That's what it seems like. I don't want anything to get down inside here. Okay. Pretty disgusting. Yeah, it is. After you've been using it a while, it's pretty crunchy. There we go. You can update just the DWC. Yeah, updating the DWC shouldn't impact your firmware, right? No, I don't have any updates on that. I did hear that there was going to be a branch so that those would be covered automatically, those new boards, with the riprap updates. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I know that it is going to happen. So we're kind of in a holding pattern on that one still. But Kyle, thank you very much for the $5. So the PTFE tube is out. Mitch 3D is here. What's up, Mitch? A crush bushing, is that the technical term for that? I was trying to think. I'm trying to think of what I referred to those as, but now it slips my mind. I can't remember everything all at once. So you have two different printed holders, right? Yeah. So the ones with the holes down the center, these are actually holes that will go over the screw heads on the right side. This is the one you need for the 4-color kit. This one is for the 2-color kit. It goes on the left side over there on the exit in stops. You actually pull 2 of the motor screws, and then they give you 2 longer screws to go all the way through the housing to hold it on. And then your switches mount inside there. And your switch will mount just like that. And there's a couple of threaded screws in here. Let's just see what our hardware looks like. That rail cord does not look right. Maker B3. I am not very far behind on answering emails. Have you sent me something recently? Because I was all caught up as of around midnight last night. I have not had any time to answer any today. Unless I just didn't get it. And there should be... Is there more than one? There is. Joe, thank you very much for the sub. So these have to be fairly tiny little self-tapping screws. If you've ever seen a lot of the old school end stops, they have those guys. I wish these were magnetic. I don't think those screws are probably that. Well, they are actually, slightly. Let's put them in the. Let's be smart and put them in the switch first. Joshua asked if it's known to work well. I do not know if it's known to work well. Honestly, I only know one other person that uses it, and I have not gotten reports from him how his went. It is based on the MMU1, but from what I understand, Bill kind of went through and corrected some of the problems that the MMU1 had. So that's why it was kind of interesting to me. That's why I got one. So we'll see. You replied to the one you sent me over a week ago, and I've not gotten a reply. Okay, well then I did not get it. So I will, a lot of times if you, and that goes for everybody, a lot of times if you contact me via Patreon, Patreon always doesn't always send me an email that says, hey, you got a message on Patreon. So I have overlooked that, and I will check it and get back to you as soon as I can. I'm not that far behind. I'm only like a day behind. Okay. So our screw is in our holder. Here is one of our mount plates. The mounting plates will go like that with an extruder on it. Typical thumb screws. We're going to use, again, I'm kind of guessing on what hardware to use. It seems pretty self-explanatory, but, you know. These are... Let's see what's in here. These are all M5 T-nuts, it looks like. This is another extruder arm. Oh, here's a 3. Here's one. It was Patreon. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'll get to it. Yes, stock board. You shouldn't have to change anything other than, some of your wires around to use this guy. So these are all M5. There is one M5 bolt, but that's probably not for this. So I hate to go to my own hardware this early, but we don't have what we need. It might be in the other kit. He did send me them as a kit, so it could be over there. But for the sake of time, there's that one. I'm just going to build them side by side. Adam 3D is here. What is up? Adam in 3D, I guess I should say. Motorhead Mitch, what's up, Mitch? So there's our two mounting brackets. M4 button head screws with T-nuts. So I've got one extruder housing here. They will be sandwiched. What do you think? Yeah. So we're going to set our motor. So we'll have plenty of room on that bracket to tighten it up when it's on the... I'd rather have this over here. So we'll have plenty of room in the bracket to tighten up those screws when it's on the frame. I've got this light shroud, whatever you want to call it, on top. So I'm going to actually bring mine out just a bit. There shouldn't, I mean, it's got PTFE tube, so that shouldn't be that big a deal, but just allow for that. And we're just going to build the extruder housing on top of it. And you should have you should have them that are flip-flopped. So be mindful of where the arm is when you do this. I would prefer them facing away from each other. Let's see how. Let's mock one of these up so I can be sure. So that arm, let's start with the other one. So I want this arm to go that a ways. Tripod's Garage, thank you very much. I guess we need some wrenches. So this whole thing was designed so that you can use your stock Ender 3 wrenches to put it together. Chameleon for resin printers. There you go. Robot hut. Yes, it comes with the steppers, the extruders, and the Y pipe. That's pretty much all there is to it. Yes, it comes with all the stepper motors. And it's $50 a color basically. So. That's not a 2.5. Dennis Day. Good afternoon. All these market extruder arms, I'm having flashbacks. There is a little piece of slag in this one. Perfect. There's some anodize in there. I do like the green color, I have to say that. Jerry from 3D Printing and Painting. Hello. Robert Reynolds is here. What's up? Stephen the Lightspeed. Oh, there's a whole bunch of people I didn't say hey to. So that is that. Those 3 screws. The bottom coupler will go down because you're going to feed. Pretty sure that's how it works. Because you would want to push down on the Y. Really, on the directions, you just need one picture. I think if you just had the lay of the land, I think it'd be just as easy to figure it out that way. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong on that. Hold on. I want to make sure these are in the right. I want to make sure the arms go the way I want them to so that it's not so hard to load. Yeah, at least they're not the plastic extruders. It is not mixing. It is just it's just extruder swapping. Same one nozzle. I think actually putting the Bowden couplers in each one of these makes it easier to identify which direction it goes. So I'm going to do that. It's pretty much $50 a color. So a 2-color kit is $100. A 4-color kit, $200. So I definitely want that arm to go to the outside. Right. So that one's that arm. Gotcha. Okay. Don't want to mix your arms up. Nervous changing filament in general. Well, that's usually where all my problems start. Well, I'm going to change this filament. After the MMU2, watching it change all the time and just hoping for the best, this can't be that bad, said Chris. Yes, all of the extruder, I mean, you could mount them wherever you want. It's all Bowden driven. But in this configuration, yeah, I'm just going to line them up on top. So you got like that coming out the top. You do need, let's see, what are my options for screws here? There will be a screw that sets on the extruder arm and on the body to allow you to put that spring on there. I'm guessing this one goes down here. Let's kind of show you after the fact. It uses the same type of purge block method like a lot of the multi-extruders do. So we're just going, basically it's going to use all the same. Bill gives you profiles for Simplify 3D Cura and Prusa Slicer. So basically we're just going to use his profile that does the before-after filament swap change. It does all his code to go tag the switch, all that stuff. And then the rest is Prusa Slicer. So you're going to use the same purge block and all that. All that good stuff. That's what he's got going on. So on your arm, you have another screw there. This is just so the screw doesn't, you could actually put that in the other way, I guess, if you wanted to, but that's just so the spring doesn't get away from you. And we have our regular old Mark 8 extruder gear. These shafts are not keyed, which is not my favorite type of extruder motor, but we'll make do. Always thinking of my supporters. Is there a way to use Prusa firmware with a different board? There are a couple of different branches that you can use on different boards. I don't know exactly, what the status of the Mark III firmware is, but I know at one time, like with the Mark II, you could run it on ramps. It's just a variant of a ramps board, so if you knew how to code just a little bit, you could make it work on pretty much anything. But a lot of the magic is the 2130 driver. I mean, you could switch over to a 2209 or something. That would take a little more effort. It's possible. It's not easy. Okay. Our next guess. We need an idler wheel for our arm. Keep getting the arms confused. Oh no, we have to put our gear on.
Thanks for what you do.
Joshua, you bet. Thank you very much for the $5. I appreciate that. Very common for these gears to have burrs on them. Oh, this is a little fancier Mark 8 gear. It actually has 2 set screws. Most of the time you just see these with 1. And on these guys, you really don't have to worry too much. That's kind of the nice part about these gears. You really don't have to worry as much about where the teeth line up. And if something bad wrong happens, you can take another run at it. So on the initial install, I just put it in the middle. But then you can kind of move it left or right if you have a problem. So you have more options for teeth there. .2209s are the best. I like them. Carlos, thank you very much for the $10. I appreciate the kind words. I don't mind going through this stuff at all. I have fun doing it. And I figure if I'm going to build something, we might as well share it together, right? So, our gear's on. I just kind of set it in the center. Actually, those set screws, if you're doing one of these, those set screws are kind of on the cusp of where you could hit it with a wrench. So just kind of gauge that when you're tightening those up. Just get it far enough back that you can snug up both of those set screws. We need an idler gear. We do have a 4mm. I always get cap head and button head. Cap head screw, a split washer, and then we have our idler bearing that will go on our arm. That split washer should keep it from binding. That bushing loves to fall out of that arm. You don't have to get crazy when tightening one of these. And then that bushing that loves to fall out. And then you'll have an M3, looks to be like a 20. It goes down in there, and it will go all the way through to the motor, through that bracket. And a spring. I'm going to go ahead and put this one together too. Richard Crook, what is up? Carlos is your first one? Well, welcome to the stream. I started work super early this morning, so I jumped off at about 3 o'clock. Jimmy Sanchez, thank you very much. Jimmy, this is Jimmy from NASA. How are you doing, Jimmy? $100. You're the man. How is everything going for you? How is the quarantine? Is it over? Are you out of the house at least a little bit? Hopefully you're doing well. Okay. Now here's always the tricky part. Putting the screw in without taking out your own eye. The spring in, and then the screw. We don't need to take out our eye. You can do it. There you go. See if we can use every wrench. On at 7 and done never. I know how that feels. Still locked down at the agency. I'm sorry to hear that. So there you go. There's one. And that will be our first one. And it will set on there like this. So I can get to that other one. And then I'm going to flop the other arm so it's on the other side. So basically everything I just did, I'm going to repeat it.
I gotta run. I will check back later. Thanks for all of the hard work.
Thank you very much for the $5, Ron. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you on these streams. I don't know that you really need to see me do this twice. It's exactly the same thing. But we'll see how it goes. All right. Somebody was asking about sensorless homing 2209s. Yeah, so Paul, I get that question a lot. What's the benefit of sensorless homing? So the biggest benefit to me is the fact that you don't have to run end-stop wires. So if you were building a new printer, you could use sensorless homing instead of having to plan for end stops, and that would be a big benefit. Now, companies such as Prusa and Marlin's coming up. I mean, they're not far behind. You're going to start seeing things like crash detection, like Prusa does today. So something holds your extruder up or your X carriage up, your Y carriage up. It's going to try to free it, go back home, and then come back to printing rather than getting that layer shift. And it works okay, you know. But that's the big. It's not so much not having the end stop that would be the benefit, which is nice if you're building a printer. But we're going to start seeing more and more use of that technology. I mean, you'd almost be, the smarter the drivers get, the closer you're going to get to like closed loop stepping. And that's a completely different subject. But at this point, with Marlin, there's a few things you can do that are kind of cool for sensorless homing. We're going to see more, but right now it's more of a convenience thing, and it's a pretty cool technology. I mean, it's cool to watch it work, but yeah. Everyone on the conference calls. Man, I wish I had some printers at work. That would be cool. I was talking to somebody the other day. They had all their printers at their office. I guess there's probably not a lot of people at the office right now, but still. How's the rail core built? I kind of addressed the rail core beforehand. I haven't really done anything. I got the new panels and everything, and I got some of them on, but that's kind of where it stalled out. You know, the biggest problem, the biggest issue with the railcord live stream build is being able for you to see it. I will live stream it. I mean, that's just how I build things. But I think we're going to end up with a live stream of just me talking from behind this giant printer box, and you can't see me doing anything. I need to either come up with like some sort of over-the-shoulder camera setup, or I don't know what I need to do. But it's so large, and you're like building from one end, like when we put the the X and Y rails on the top. It's just going to be really hard for me to work on it and for you to see. So we're going to have to figure out something for that. Maybe I'll come up with something crafty. I don't know. I shouldn't have gotten the tall version. Uh, the end configuration for this, I'm planning on 4. We're going to try 2 first, just to see how things go. And then maybe we'll step up to 4. This will definitely be more than one stream. So I want to go through setting up the slicer and all that good stuff too. Which they have a config file, so it shouldn't be. Bill has actually done all the hard work, and that's the slicer profile. Head-mounted GoPro live stream. That would make me look super attractive on stream. Not that I need help now. Okay, and then this one gets, yeah. There's that. There's that. My spring. want to do this over here. I did the first one on camera. I'll do this one right here so I don't hurt myself. All right. Adventure mask. Well, I mean, as you add weight. Oh, you're talking about the wipe tower. Yes, the more colors you add, the bigger the wipe tower is going to go. There's also transition time to account for. So, like if you had a red and a white, you're always going to want to do a larger purge sequence when you're going to a white or a lighter color, or you're going to bleed. And that purge block will get really ginormous if you end up with a lot of lighter colors. You kind of have to consider what, at that point, it's important to consider what extruder you go to and from. Some models, you're not going to be able to do that so much. You can kind of try to plan it out. So, like, if you're going from or to a white, you're coming from a color that might not interfere with it so much, something like that. But yes, the more you add, the bigger the block. So there's two, left and right. You can't see them. There you go. Okay, so we can build our tree. We will start with just the dual tree. And these just go together with self-tapping screws. And then you lay your couplers inside here. Right, you're feeding 1 and 2. And then you have 2 self-tappers, 1 on each side. You don't want to tighten those up too much. There's 2 on that side, and then they give you 2 to go through for the other side. Happy little trees. Like that. Now, I'm way off of my 12-step thing by now. I'm going off the cuff. So, this is one of the important parts of a lot of, you probably can't see that too well, but a lot of these multi-extrusion things, setups, MMUs, palette not so much because they only have that one oversized tube, but these are flared, and I have a tool that kind of does this, but these are flared on one side to allow, so when you ram, when you do the ramming to eject the filament and to shape the tip of the filament, for repeatability, you need to come out with some sort of arrowhead type filament. The end of it is going to have to look a certain way to be able to bring it back in another time. So you try to shape that filament tip by ramming into the nozzle at a certain temperature. You know, you ram it, let it set, pull it back. You have to adjust all that stuff. And that's where it can get really tricky. Well, to be able to bring that tip back in, because it's going to be bigger than 175, they flare the ends of these PTFE tubes. And that's what we have here. So they've already decided how long this needs to be for a Creality hot end. You have a flare on this side, and then on the other side is going to be the flat. The flat part is where you want butted up against the nozzle. Because on a Creality design, if it's not sandwiched up against that nozzle, you're going to end up with filament running out underneath it, and then you'll have a blob and a bad day. So you'll want the flare side to go inside the Y. and just about as far as you can push it in. It actually goes up to like right there. Remember, kids, I've never put one of these together. I'm just going by videos I saw a couple of weeks ago. And then this whole thing will go down inside the hot end. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and put that on. But I am going to preheat one more time and try to get it in there and seat it so that if I do have any filament left in there, we will push it out. Let's do that while we're standing here. Ben Stanley, will this work on an Ender 3 V2? I don't see why not. I don't see any reason why this won't work on any standard board because it's all done in G-code. I don't know how the switches would mount on a V2. I don't know how much different it is. I don't follow that printer. I'm not sure again, how different it is. But you could always change up the 3D printed housing. These are just printed. So you could make it work. I don't know if it's going to work stock out of the box, but Bill over at 3D Chameleon can confirm that. Espen is here. What is up, Espen? I haven't talked to you in ages. How's it been going? Remember, kids. Yep, safety third. Yeah, Ricky, it is, you are correct. It is MMU1-esque, but it has been changed up quite a bit from that. So, fingers crossed, we will have a better time than the original setup. We'll see. So, what we can do, I'm going to have to do some, let's set some of this aside, actually. Let's clean up a bit so that I can show you the actual install on the printer a little better. A lot of these parts, for people just joining, a lot of these parts are going to be used during the 4-color setup, even though all the kits are the same, but you get like half of a 4-color Y tower in each kit, so you can put them together. I don't know if I still need all of these, but we'll play like I do. And that mounts on with these two. I think that's it. I think that's all I need. Would this work on a Prusa Mini? I think so. I really, as long as you could, the problem is the feeder. So this is really designed for that PTFE tube to go all the way to the nozzle. It's going to have a problem traversing any gap. So like on a direct drive extruder, if you can jump over the extruder gap, if you can work that path out, like on the Mini, I don't see why the Mini would be a problem. But if there's any transition at all in between two tubes, like the traditional heat break where the tube is inside, doesn't go all the way down, it might get tricky with that rammed in. I don't know on the Mini. I'm not exactly sure the path inside that Mini hot end, but maybe. I'm not sure. How much to retract the color for, like, on the Chameleon? That is the only real question I have. I'm not sure at this point. I'm going to have to watch it work to figure it out. I mean, if you want to talk like nozzle to where the path ends, to where the Y begins, we're talking let's call it 104 millimeters. So that's the measurement on that, but I'm not actually sure what sequence it's going to use. So that will be a surprise to all of us. So let's go to the printer side for a moment. It's been doing well. You know, I'm just doing my thing, staying in the house, not doing much at all. Focusing on 3D printer stuff, so. Yes, Purge Tower indeed. So basically all I did was I just heated up the hot end, and this is just going to be the replacement for the stock Bowden tube. You remember this is the flat side. This will go all the way down to the nozzle. The reason why this actually gives you kind of a nice handle to deal with that tube. I heated it up so that if there's any filament in between the nozzle and this tube, it'll cook it, and then it'll squish it out for me. And it did. Pretty nice job. Excellent. So there we go. We're good on that. There's really no filament in the barrel, so I'm not worried about cooling it down. So we'll just turn it off. Next, since we're looking at this, so my QR code has to go. I guess I could just put it over there. Really wouldn't matter. I'll have to get to it with a wrench though. Do I know what new things are on the SKR E3 V2? So, would you like to look at a V2? Yes, I know about Vorons. I've never had a Voron Bennett. I've heard of them. I've never used one. A lot of people tell me that they're good. There's different ones that are decent. I'm not 100% sure, but I have heard of them. Never used one. Would you like to look at a V2? I will give you. So let me put a spoiler out to you. I have a video coming out Wednesday, July 1st. And traditionally, and it's no different for this year, traditionally I take a couple of weeks off in the summer. So the July 1st video will be the last video before my summer break. So I will be taking a couple of weeks off after that one. Now I will be doing a lot of live streams at that time. So catch me on live streams if you want to hang out. But I won't have any videos after that for a couple of weeks. Then I'll be back. But, so that's the last video. So you're going to have to wait on the V2 video. I do have one, but if you would like to look at it right now, I will run over it with you if you would like. There's really not that much different. I mean, there's a couple of nice things. I think it's more of a reliability change at this point. So we take these two out. These actually go into the motor. I don't think there's a standoff in there. Some of these have a standoff. So we take these two guys out, and you save these. I believe you use them on the 4-color kit. A V0. So we'll save these guys. We'll just throw them in our chameleon box. Is there something to get old filament off of a heated plate? The best thing that I've run into to get the filament off is to print over it. And then try to get that print to pull that off. Other than, you know, traditional scraping or anything like that, it depends what filament is. I guess if you had like little bits of ABS, you could loosen it up with acetone. I'm not sure on PLA. Martin 3P Iceland is here. What is up, Martin? So those two are out. So in the kit, they give you these. They look like 60s maybe. Your block will go on like this. We're not going to put it on yet because we have to do the wires. Your block will go on like this, and then you'll have these super long screws that go into that motor. So that's how that will go. And again, how this works is when you want a color change, it's going to come back to home. And when it goes to home, it's going to come over here and tag that switch. That's how it tells it what extruder to use. So that's how that's going to work. So let's wire. So be a world of chaos. I'll be close. Don't worry, I'll be close. So you have 3 plugs inside here. You have the one in the center. You have a 6-pin. That's for your motor input. So you can just plug your regular old motor wire, the one that goes into the motor, right there. Pat, thank you very much for the sub, as well as Kurt. Thank you, sir. And then your, let's see, how does that go? White one goes to your right motor. This is just, it doesn't really actually matter. It makes it easier to figure out in the slicer. Your white one goes to your right motor, and your black one goes to your left motor in the 2 configuration, if I remember correctly. It's not a big deal if we have to swap them, but that's how we're going to set it up. So, it is also important to note, there are multiple kinds of wires out here on different Ender 3s. Will that one actually reach the stock cable? Yeah, it will. No problem. Ricky H, thank you very much for the sub. The fans can now be controlled. The Mini didn't have a control. I guess they only had one, right? They had the part fan. That was it, right? So that's cool. If they've got more PWM inputs or outputs, whatever you want to call it. So we will take one of our motor wires there. The other one here. And then the stock motor will go in here. Before I do that, I'm going to mount these 2 up here so that I can remember which one goes where. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place a bit. So I want my arm to be on the outside so that I can trigger it. Awesome. Well, thank you. Hey, there's the man himself right there. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Bill is the guy behind this whole thing. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, Bill. So far, so good. Again, I reached out to you the other day about a manual on how to build this. I'm just going from memory from watching the video. so if I'm doing this wrong, I apologize, but I think I got it. Good old C-nuts. Okay, so that way I can remember which one goes where. So we are going to take the one that we plugged into the white one, and we're going to put it as the right. We're good there, and then the one we plugged into the black coupler, we'll put that one on the left. So that's good. Now let's talk a bit more about these Ender 3 wires. So there's a couple of ways that you're going to find these printers set up as far as stepper motors. There's 2 main kinds of NEMA 17 that you're going to run into, how the stator is set up inside there. And if you get a new motor and something's not going right, that might be the problem. Let me focus that a bit. So you're going to run into two main types, right? You're going to have this kind where it's straight through. All these wires are 1-to-1 as they come out of that cable into all four of the pins. If that is the case for this setup, you don't have to do anything. But occasionally you will run into ones where these center two are flip-flopped. Actually, this one is flip-flopped. And it's really hard to tell. See how you can see that these two are actually crisscrossed right here? You need these to be straight through. You can correct it a couple of ways, but I think probably the easiest way to do that is to just flip these pins over. You can just pull those, slide them out, and then flip them around. But for this to work correctly and to get the motor to turn in the right direction, these are going to have to all be straight through. So I'll pull these pins and flip them, and then we should be good. It's just, I think tweezers probably work the best for these. You can just kind of get them in there and pull them up a bit. But beware of that. Not all of them are going to be the same. It just seems to be like what week they're building these. That depends on how you're going to get one. This is a base Ender 3. I noticed that you were running at like 250 or it was like the reference voltage was millivolts or something. I was curious. I was curious on how that actually worked. Why these motors would run so much lower than that? Is it because of the type of motor, or is it how you're chaining them together that makes it that we want to run so low? TFT version 3, I don't have one of those. Scott62, hello? .36 ohm. There you go. That explains it. Excellent. Thank you. I was wondering what that was. I didn't know, because I was looking at the switch, and I'm like, well, there's really nothing special about this switch. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that. Okay, let me flip this plug over for a second. This takes me a moment because I can barely see it. Is it just me, or does all your good tweezers end up bent because you pry on things with them too much? Pulling these out, pulling the ribbon apart just a little bit, probably makes this a lot easier. I'll be with you in a moment. After surgery, the trick is you can get these out of here by pulling the pins, but you don't want to pull them too much and mess up the plug completely. I do have some of these. I could put one back on if I had to, but that's not my favorite thing to do. So we got one. Got two. Okay. And again, we're just swapping these so that they'll be both straight through. This one was crisscrossed. Excellent. Okay. So now those are all straight through. So when they are straight through in that housing, where'd my housing go? Right here. The stock extruder wire, if you need to correct it, will go right here in the center. And then that whole housing, we can just kind of tuck these wires here. I'll put a zip on there. Then that whole housing will just go on the front of where we took those two screws off. Let me tie those together. See you later, John Strand. Yeah, okay, so Bill's saying, so he gives you 4 of those wires. He gives 4 different ones. They look to be like a meter, probably. Maybe a little less than that. But you can just swap one of these out. So if you don't want to mess with that plug, switching that around, you could just rerun that wire. Where are the good clippers? Well, these aren't great ones, but the good ones always get lost. So there's that. Back to the printer. That camera gets hot and starts freaking out for some reason. There are a lot of different upgrades for an Ender 3. That is absolutely true. So then we got these 2 super long screws. This will go like so. I don't want to pinch any of my wires. And then these will go straight through into the motor. Really, I mean, after you get kind of a lay of the land and you understand what's going on and what's going to happen here, it's a pretty easy install. No, not up the end of the table. Save. Don't break, don't break. So now, again, we will do this one more time, but now you should be able to hit your extruder switching switch and your end stop at the same time. And they do. They click at the same time. Nice. Okay. So now we need some PTFE tube. We have a spool of it here, included in the kit. Let's focus a little bit better here. So we need to be concerned with, absolute paths here, but that Y splitter does give us a little bit extra room. I don't know that it actually matters too much, but I'm going to just go out on a limb and guess that the closer to identical length of these 2 feeder tubes, the better. So I'm going to cut them at the same time. How to add water cooling to your webcam. Now that would be a project. Got a question. Different. That's Espen, that is a question that I get asked all the time, and I think it is totally possible. I don't know anyone that's ever done it. There would be some coding involved, and I don't know. I mean, I am not savvy enough to write something like that. I'm not much of a web coding type person. It's called that good. So basically what Espen is asking, so we do those, I've got videos where we do a multiple installs of Octoprint on one Raspberry Pi. Well, it's pretty common to use a touchscreen hat on top of your Raspberry Pi because it's kind of a slick install. But if you have multiples, it's only going to allow you to force it to one of those instances, just because of how the UI software works. You're usually going to be using something like OctoScreen or Touch UI. There's a Octodash or something like that. You can use one of those programs, but you can only use one instance. So what the grandeur moment is, you could slide, like you could flip, left or right to go to all your different instances. That would be so awesome if you could do that, but I don't know anybody that's done it. So developers out there, there's an idea for you. So there's kind of a trick to this. The Raise 3D Cloud, that thing is kind of cool. So we're going to use this extruder, but we're going to use the opposite side of the Y adapter right there, and then do the same thing. So that kind of sets there. We're going to do the same thing on this one and go to the opposite one. And that way, these two tubes will kind of corral each other, which is kind of nice. And then we can just kind of loosely fix them. Not tie them down, just keep them from getting in the way of anything. And then I'm going to do just a bit of wire management on my extruder up here. Just going to run them kind of across the top. Red Light Mike, what's up, Red Light? Dave Randolph is here. What's up, Dave? What are you talking about? Chris is popular every day. Okay, some days. Okay, not at all. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Yeah, I really don't think many people have seen the Chameleon. I mean, I don't know of a lot of YouTubers doing it. So maybe it's something people want to see. I don't know. Okay, so that's it. Da, 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 da. That's all the setup. Now, G-code and slicing and all that kind of stuff scares me. Getting it to work correctly is all, there's going to be a little bit of fiddling around, I think. But we'll just see how it goes. Out in the garage, scrapping computers. I wish Murph would have happened, Red Light, because I have boxes and boxes of stuff that you need for scrapping purposes. I was going to bring all of that to you. So hopefully sometime we have an event where I can still bring all that stuff to you. So we're just going to test, like I said before, we're just going to test the 2-color first. And then once we get that working, fairly well, then on another day, we can go for the 4-color. That razor blade sitting there kind of bothers me a little. Just waiting for Chris Ryan to be the guinea pig. Well, we'll see how it goes. Cool. $2022, that's right. I have not set the motor current. Thank you, Bill. You are correct. I need to do that. We can do that. This one actually has never been touched. I have not messed with this one. I've never even opened the board cover. And you know what? If you've seen a lot of the printers that I have on the videos, once the board cover gets open, it never goes back on. But we'll do that. So I'm going to open this guy up so that I can adjust the trim pot on the stepper driver. Four color. Technically, you could do as many up to 32. I think 32 is the magic number. Technically, you could do up to 32 as long as you could find places to put switches. So I think you could just keep going. As long as you had a way to get to the switches to change it up. You'd have to get really inventive with your G code. Yeah, there you go, Bill. 32. Yeah, 32. I want to see the machine that has 32 on it. What was that one? It was a tool changer that had like 15 heads. I think he was running Clipper. He had Clipper with a bunch of ramps boards or something. That was at ERF 19 as well. Okay. I don't remember what version of board this is a 114. I don't remember if you can power these with USB or not. I don't think you can. Are you interested in seeing to set a stepper the stepper current? Because this is going to be kind of hard to see. I can try to give you the gist. Now, so if you ask me how to do this, I would tell you to use a ceramic screwdriver so that you didn't short out your board while you were doing it. That's not how I do it. But if you want to be safe, use a plastic or ceramic screwdriver. Some people actually use pieces of filament. Like you can clip the end off a filament and try to use that. So that's one method. But basically, so there's V reference. We're adjusting the current with a trim pot on the board. But basically, it kicks out a reference voltage for you to use to try to gauge what that current's going to be. And this one the Chameleon motors are high impedance, as Bill said, and they're running at 32. I think is what he said. 36 ohm. I don't remember what you said, Bill, but it's a lot higher than a stock. So we need to turn the current down. And the reference voltage number Bill has gone with is 256. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. And we will get as close as we can. Probably 50 either way, wouldn't hurt you much. Do as I say, not as I do, right? That's how that saying goes? 36. Gotcha. This is the extruder stepper driver right here on a Creality board. You do not want to touch anything other than that trim pot inside here, or all you're going to be able to see is my hands in the way. A good source of ground for your meter is the SD slot. If you can reach the actual output, you could do that as well. So we're setting at, of course I didn't turn down to 2. So we're setting at 730, and we're going to turn down to 256. $256 on the dot. So there you go. We have adjusted. Now I'm going to turn this off and put the screws back in so that I don't drop one in there while I'm putting the cover back on. Zap! Okay, Bill's saying 25 max either way. So there you go. That's a big jump on the impedance on that motor, so that's probably much safer 25 instead. Thank you for reminding me of that, because I jump right into slicer stuff because I get excited. No blue smoke. Scott62, awesome. I'm glad you got your first printer. You're getting ready to start printing. I'm glad it has helped. I gotta find a good test print for this too, where we can see color changes like right off the bat. There's a couple of like thin tests out there that, you know, they're only a couple of layers high. With all the ramming sequences and things, you probably want some pretty nice filament for this, I would guess, just based on my history of doing things as such. Okay, so for now, I think we're good there. Yeah, Bill's saying yes on the filament. Prusa is the best for it. Prusa. Yeah, we got some Prusa somewhere. I'll find us some. I don't think I have any full spools, but I know I got enough for this. The ramming sequences, though, if you've never done multi-color like this, you know, trading out one hot end, multiple extruders, that ramming sequence is the most important part, and filament that will tolerate it well is kind of hard to find. Prusa is a good option because Prusa kind of, they introduced that MMU into their environment, and they kind of roundabout catered that filament towards being successful with that unit. So that's always a good pick if you're doing something like this setup. Putting things away. There's only a couple things I put away. There's a lot of stuff I just still throw it on the floor, though. But I appreciate the accolades, Tony. Backer number 9. But Bill, I mean, kind of at that point, if you're backer number 9, you kind of have an ulterior motive to getting a 6 SE. I really don't see you, you know, adding that to your farm and just going to town. I would think that would be more research purposes. Yeah, I know, man. 32.8. It's been going crazy lately too. Yeah, I mean, Espen's from way back. He's been on here forever. 3 years. So what is today? Today's the 29th. So June 22nd was I started on YouTube June 22nd, 2017. So a little over 3 years now. Sax, thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate it. Might be. Might be. Fair enough. Okay. So, how about some screen share? I actually have a stool back here now. I do set and use the computer once in a while, which I don't do very often. But it's really hard to see the screen when you're looking down on it, actually trying to do something. So, Bill has done all of the hard work for us here. And we are just going to download a whole Prusa Slicer profile. It's all in one INI file. We will download it. Yes, Chrome, we can keep it. Then, let's open up Prusa Slicer. Prusa, I say Prusa all the time. Joshua, thanks for coming. It's kind of like an MMU1, yes, kind of. And then we will just import the whole thing. Import. I don't know if I need to do bundle or config. Let's try config first. That looks to be just fantastic. We have different colors here. We don't have to use all 4. There's really nothing I need to change. So all the magic, just while we're talking about this, I could just go down to 4, or I could go down to 2, or I could just tell it that I'm going to do 2. I'll just tell it I'm going to do 2. But this is all of the magic. This G code right here, right there. So tool change G code, and I know this all too well because of the tool changing machine. But this is everything it tells it needs to do to go hit that switch. The ramming sequences, all of that good stuff is right in here. Well, some of it anyway. And then the rest of it is done in the filament settings. Prusa Slicer has a pretty advanced way of doing this anyway. You get a lot of different options. You can adjust ramming settings and things like that. But this whole thing has been tweaked for the Chameleon already, so we should be good. Now I need some sort of print. Bill was using like these mushroom things that I really liked. The 1-up mushrooms. Parker Brown, where you been, man? Good to see you. Thank you very much for the $5. This guy is what I was thinking of. So let's grab that one. Yep, no firmware upgrade. Excellent. Info Mario's here. What's up? Okay. Yep. Oh, it's not color. This is layered on color. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Which one is the actual 3-color one? It's this one that I was thinking of, I think. It's got, you see, it's got the 3 parts there. Let's try this one. There we go. This guy. Much better. Okay, and then you can just take, this is the cool part about the multicolor and Prusa Slicer. You can just take all of these and drop them right here, and then it's going to say, hey, we've noticed that this is multi-material. Would you like to make it that way? And then I say yes. And then it stacks it how I need to stack it. And then if you go over here and click on the purge block, then that kind of takes your preview away so you can see the individual colors. And then you can select over here which have Secret Parker Brown. Well, thank you for your service in the Army, Parker Brown. I appreciate that. And the $5. So now you can select which extruder you want or what color. I really don't care about the color, but I do want to make, I'm not have the 3-color on there, so I'm just going to change this to 2. And then when you slice it, it should just show the two colors, and you have your prime and all that good stuff out here. And then we can throw that on our SD card. What we got? It does have quite a bit of raft on it, which isn't a big deal. I would rather actually use it in default form like this than try to change it at all, just to see how it's going to work. Oh, the support is probably what's keeping the multicolor together, because when they're divided like that, sometimes they tend to fall apart on you. The blue is not aligned correctly. You're right, it doesn't look right. But is it a problem with the file? Let's try again. It looks messed up. Could probably do that one. Looks all right. Let's pull that in one more time. Does that look right? Oh, no, not the whole thing. Why are you doing that? Not that one. You know, Prusa Slicer has undo on it now. Oh. How do I ungroup these? I thought you could just right-click and ungroup them. Add support, scale to print, fix through netfab. I'm not seeing the option that I'm usually used to seeing. Oh, maybe it has. That might be. Maybe it's already been stacked. Maybe that's what the deal is. That's what it is. They were trying to be helpful. Later, Jeremy. That looks better. Okay. I wish it didn't, maybe I need to change this And I want to change it to that. But now I can probably move them. Is it broken? It almost looked like 3 pieces there for a second. Oh, because it is. I have 2 extruders. That looks better. Cool. Alright. 37 minutes. I wonder how accurate that is. Let's get an SD card. Of course, my SD card scanner doesn't work like it used to. Alright. We're done with that. I have to go find some filament. Scott Latine is here. What's up, Scott? Yes, Prusa Slicer gets better all the time. I know they had like movable. I want to say they added like tree or something. I'm not sure if that was on FDM, but they made some updates that I haven't even checked out yet. But welcome to the stream, Scott. Okay. We need some filament. So, Bill, the main question I had on this, and I didn't really see it anywhere, how do you know how far you need to load the filament into the Y? Do you just load the filament down to right where it starts Ying, like right into the end of this tube, and then it'll know how to pull them in? Answer that. If you have an answer to that, throw it on there while I go get some filament. I'll be right back. I know there's some Prusa over here somewhere. Here we go. Yeah, that one looked very good. Here. Okay. Cranking on the 206 release. Scott, I'm waiting for that 206. I got a whole lot of stuff I want to test. I'm pretty excited about the release of that. Release notes are so long. Doesn't buying me a coffee show up here? No, it doesn't. That's one of the things they really need to integrate into Streamlabs. Or Streamlab? Streamlab. I always get it confused with StreamYard. But it looks like you bought me 3 coffees. That is much appreciated. Thank you. So, what did we say about filament? Magnus is here. Hey, Magnus. There is a ton of stuff happening with Marlin. I'm really interested to see how this whole Clipper-like thing turns out with Marlin. What do they call it? Look ahead? Was it look ahead or something? I don't remember. These couplers can be a real pain to load. And it's all that type of coupler's fault. One inch above the Y. He's never thread through the first time. I did cut it at a 45-degree angle. It is something about that coupler, because on whatever printer and I just broke the filament, so I got to start over. Whatever printer I do, Prusa Mint's getting pretty old. I always seem to struggle the first couple of times getting those through there. Got it that time. I don't know if there's just like really fine burrs on those when they machine them or what. An inch above the Y. Alrighty. I actually have a, I was starting to talk about that earlier in this stream, and then I got sidetracked, as I usually do. I actually have a Lexan tool for RC bodies that works awesome. It's a ream for Lexan holes, is what it is. It works really good for making flares on the ends of those tubes. Got that one. Beveled the hole. That's not a bad idea either. Okay, they're an inch above the Y tube. So I just let it rip, huh? They seem like they're seated to me. They're seated all the way down on top, and then this one is all the way into the end and to the top of that one. It looks like it should. Reamers. Wish there was a little wider angle shot for this thing. very interested to see how this thing works. Might crash into my clip there. So it backed it out like 3 inches. Extruder heating. I'm wondering if the motor is turning in the opposite direction. Motors are backwards. Now it says unloading tool 1. Yes, those are definitely backwards. Swap the cables. But I'll probably need them to turn, all of them to turn in the opposite direction. So wouldn't I just swap the main extruder cable? Flip it over? Just at the motor, you don't mean swap these two. You mean swap the extruder motor, the default extruder motor. Right, the default extruder motor. Because that's what makes everything turn the right direction. We'll see what Bill says. It really seemed right, though. Because those were... You can flip it the switch or swap them left or right between the two motors. Oh. Okay. Well, let's just do that. Okay. Nope. Do not power off resume, please. Thank you. Okay. We're loaded on 1 inch, ready for take 2. I guess they do turn opposite because the arm's on the other. That makes sense. So flipping those two motors back and forth. Remember when I said white, black, left, right? these are set up, the arms are set up opposite, so the gears on the motors would actually turn in opposite directions. So because that one was going backwards, we just flipped these two motor cables. So now we had a left and a right motor turning the opposite directions, counter and clockwise. We flipped them so that they would be both triggered the right direction because we have one of each. That's what we did. Just for people that, if they watch this and do this later. You like my filament spool holder? Those are those 3D printed spools that you can get the different barrel length. There's a couple of different sizes of the holder too. People ask me about this all the time. They're on Thingiverse. It's like if you search spool holder on Thingiverse, it's like the third one. I've had those, I printed those years ago, and I've got 4 or 5 of them. I use them all the time. Factory swapped outer 2 wires instead of the inner 2 wires. I'm guessing that is correct. I should have looked at it closer when I was in there adjusting the trim pot. No, there's no bearings. They're just printed parts. There's nothing to them. Now it's pulling out the purple. Now it's pulling out the other extruder. It just backed it out. Now 5th on the list. I have a couple of Ender 3s. It says it's unloading tool 1, so it is going in the opposite direction. Need to stop and restart with it off the switch. Okay, that's good info to have. So let's do that. Back to 1 inch, both filaments. So it's off the switch. I don't know what the other end of that cable looks like. I only switched the pins. So the pins were crossed on the motor side, so I uncrossed them. Let me actually check. It won't take that long. Instead of trying to troubleshoot through chat, let me actually take a look at it. It really seems like the motor is turning backwards. It's at the motor end on those cables. Did I use, is there more than one type of cable? Those look identical. The instructions have you flip one cable. Oh, So these are all straight through cables, but I was supposed to flip one of them. I didn't see that anywhere. Oh, maybe I was under the assumption that I was supposed to flip the stock cable, not the Chameleon cable. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That's the part I missed then, Bill. I didn't realize I was supposed to flip one of the stock ones. I guess I should have known that since they were turning the opposite direction. So there you go. You have to flip one of the cables if you put one of these together. And knowing is half the battle. Let's see what that does. Reverse all four. I wouldn't just need... Oh, I would have to actually completely flip it over, wouldn't I? Because that would just change the stator. Okay. This kit has probably been sitting here a while, so I really don't remember when I received it, but it was a while back. Stick your tongue out. Sometimes that's proper. I do that occasionally. We'll wait and see what it does. It's heating. For some reason this time, I thought it heated them both at the same time last time. For some reason this time it heated the bed and then waited to do the extruder. Maybe I'm imagining things. Or maybe I picked the wrong file. The controller on this is not the most accurate thing in the world. It was the wrong file. I didn't think I was seeing things. So before you start, you need to move the extruder away from the switch. Does it really... I'm curious when this thing... I will have a better understanding as I see it print and change. Okay, so it checked the one filament, and that looks correct. Ah, it allows you to select which color you want to start with. That makes sense then. Okay. It says unloading tool 1, but now we're still about, it's backing it out. We're about 2 inches from the Y. Still backing out. 3 inches. Now it's backing it completely out. Now it's about 3/4 of an inch from the top of the Y tube, and it's printing. Okay, I think I've seen enough for the moment. It's close to my dinner time. We have got it assembled, but we definitely have some issues either with G-code or wires or something. But I didn't expect to get this whole thing done in like 2.5 hours or whatever it is we've been streaming. So I will take a look at this after I've had some food, and then I will update you later this week. I don't know if I'm going to stream tomorrow or Wednesday or whatever it's going to be, but I will be on another stream to finish this up. And I want to get this working, figured out, and then I'd want to do another stream where we go to 4-color. So there's going to be a couple of these Chameleon streams, so just hang out for those. I'm not going to do any of the other streams like Railcore or anything until this one's finished. So that's how it's going to go. Thank you everybody for joining the stream today. All the new subs, all of the tips, much appreciated. All that support is just awesome. I can't believe it. But hopefully you enjoyed today, hanging out for a while. We'll be back very, very soon. I will talk to Build on the side. So, take care, everyone. Have a good day, night, evening. I will be back very, very